Recap, and the slide continues in Pittsburgh. Packers weren't quite able to pull out the win at what used to be Heinz Field. I don't know how to pronounce it nowadays, but we'll run with whatever it is. This is probably the most entertaining Packers loss of the season. I shouldn't say probably, I will say it actually is. And a missed point after attempt proved to be very costly in this game. That would probably be continuing as we speak. If not, but hey, let's go ahead and open up the tab of this Week 10 loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dave, how we doing?
I was thoroughly entertained. I've been saying for weeks, I said, if we lose, I want it to be more like this. I want it to be more like 2008. There's things that you can pinpoint and say, this player is growing. There's, optimism. You could see the talent gelling together. I couldn't take much more of like Detroit games and slow and messy, penalty riddled games. It was driving me mad. I was falling asleep on the couch half watching it. Then I'd have to do the rewatch and just drive myself even more insane. But like we've been talking about, the defense will shine and the offense will fade, and then the offense will shine and the defense will fade, and it's not a cohesive group right now.
Not very complimentary out of both bunches. It's like, hey, I'll cover your back for this possession, then get me back 2 series later. The game could have ended at halftime, and I'm like, that's the most amount of highlights I've seen on the offense in a full 60 minutes. And the run game on the defense to dive into that got a little bit better as the game wore on. But hey, I'm not all too upset. I think one of the nicest parts about this game is that it's the fourth quarter. It's really tight, and we had a couple opportunities to win this ball game. And compared to every other year that I've been a Packers fan, like I was relaxed. We were vibing. It was cool.
Yeah.
We weren't on the edge of our seat and like all stressed out for it. It was a pretty just overall enjoyable loss. It's really weird to say that, but enjoyable loss to watch as a Packers fans. And this is what we thought this ball club would have looked
Right.
like 4 weeks ago, not 10 weeks midpoint of the season. But this offense is putting some things together. This is probably what Love's best game, and the Packers uniform all together with how decisive he looked. Do you want to start on the offensive side and what you saw out of number 10 this afternoon when people have been coming after him and
Yeah.
wondering if he's really the dude in 1265 for years to come?
Yeah. So I think this is one of Love's better games. And the sad part is he made some great throws today, and he played great. The thing that people are going to look at is his stat sheet, and they say, no, he wasn't good at all. I mean, 21 for 40 for 289, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You're looking at saying, wow, they got to find a different dude. But the throws he made were very pinpoint. I mean, even the first drive that Watson thread the needle, the corner route to Dobbs, that Dobbs ran a great route on. There's times pressure was right in his face. Even that last drive, pressure right in his face, steps up in the pocket, finds Reed out of nowhere. He made some elite throws that sadly will probably go unnoticed because people are going to look at either the stat sheet or just say, hey, he couldn't win, couldn't put the ball in the end zone to end the game and cap off the win. But this was a solid offensive effort.
And you take a look at it with other games, you could clearly see it was evident in Lambeau. There's a lot of timidness for the Packers offense running back onto the field for a lot of series when they'd be going three straight 3-and-outs on offense. But you saw Love in this game, the offense like rushing to get back out in the field, the demeanor that he had, the poise, the confidence. I mean, basically the whole package. And like you brought up, the running backs didn't bring their hands to Pittsburgh with them. There
Yeah.
has been multiple drops, along with Watson didn't help himself out. I know Twitterland is kind of coming after him and his playmaking ability,
Yeah.
but boy, love from the jump. I don't know what flip was switched in him from taking the Rams game to this one, but love definitely silenced the critics coming into this game. And I mean, what would you say is like your favorite throw for this afternoon that he had?
Uh Favorite throw. I mean the the throw to Dobbs was pretty sweet. A little sidearm action, corner of the end zone. There's another sidearm throw on that drive that he made, shooting it through a tight window. But probably that Watson throw in the first quarter, first drive that you have the linebacker underneath the safety over top, and he threads it between two guys is probably my favorite throw of the day.
And just the decisive, like how much he put some mustard on that pass too. That was like a Brett Favre bullet pass that he rifled into there. Mine would probably be that Jaden Reed touchdown.
That was a sweet one.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that anybody's been able to get on with Love to date has been that he's been leaving something to be desired with his deep pass, and he's not put enough on it. Clearly today he put some more on it. He was stepping into those throws, the Jaden Reed pass, the touchdown. You could just tell by the way the ball came off his hand. You're like, all right, this thing should be able to get Jaden Reed in stride. So I'll say that. And then the other thing too is you brought it up late in the game. I think the Packers did a really good job, LaFleur's play calling, with the route concepts to clear out safeties and to get players open, wide open in the middle of the field. There was a Wicks catch that nobody was around late in the fourth quarter. There's also another Romeo Dobbs catch, and I think one more by Wicks where like they catch it and then they're rolling forward for like one more yard. Like, yeah, I think finally the route trees are coming together and we're scheming it up correctly here in Week 10. So good job by LaFleur as well.
I think there's too much talent with Love. Now Love's extended, so Love will have next year too. I'm still of the opinion that there's too much talent in that arm just to be like, here's 17 games. We don't like what we see. I mean, he has a rocket of the arm. You could tell from this week he's changed his trajectory on the long passes. It's coming out a little bit more flatter. Beforehand, it was really a high arch. He wanted to get the receivers to run under it or like stop and contest catch it. Now there's a little bit more of a line drive, like they have to run out and go get it. He just makes throws that there's certain guys in this league that can't make. That has me intrigued. The completion percentage isn't there. The decision making isn't quite there yet, but I still think that there needs to be a talent shift. There's a lot of young guys, but he doesn't have a true number one. It's a lot of spread the ball around and who has the hot hand. I just think there's a lot of inconsistency with this offense as a whole right now to get a true judgment of Jordan Love.
And when you go back and watch the film, a lot of those sidearm throws are with defenders all up in his face too. Yeah. That he's so cool back there and just wheeling and dealing around there. And we talked about before this game, and kind of the focal point on whether the Packers win or lose is slowing down TJ Watt. I didn't see him all too much on this Sunday afternoon game. I was shocked that Yosh Nijman didn't get the nod at left tackle, and it's one of my guys who I've been pulling for, but they went with Rasheed Walker instead, whether there's injuries, concerns lingering with Yosh. But hey, we did a good job on the offensive line of keeping the Steelers in check and giving Love 2 back-to-back weeks of really clean pockets to work with, where you saw times that he's able to, I think on like one of those Wicks completion, it was like his 5th read getting back to him.
We gave A.J. Dillon a gaping hole that the truck can run through, 40-yard dash. Besides that one run, there was a lot of runs to be desired as a whole where they just didn't block it up as well as I thought. And then, the screen passes, there's missed blocks on some screen passes. There was some obvious drops by the running back crew as a whole. This was another winnable game, but like we've been saying, it was a enjoyable game. Like, it wasn't much head scratching. There wasn't a lot of games in the past where it's consistently like, oh man, like we're back into 3rd and 8 and we're punting again. So it was a solid back and forth game that there was a stepping stone there.
And look at our 2 rookie wide receiver, one's wide receiver and then one's a tight end that they're 10 weeks in. We're now starting to see some of that potential out of them. Jaden Reed, your leading receiver with 84 yards. Luke Musgrave had 2 big catches. It would have been amazing if he hauled in, or if it was a better ball and he hauled in like that back shoulder touchdown, like a
Yeah.
Tony Gonzalez catch. But hey, if you want to know what Packer football could look like here in 24 and 25 with those players, like look no farther than today with Luke Musgrave down the seam and then another catch late in the fourth quarter, and then what Jaden Reed was able to do. Like this is the weaponry that we were expecting just a little bit later on in the season
It'll
than
be
what we like.
it'll be interesting going forward what the Packers decide to do, because there are plenty of holes on this team. I mean, there's a fan base that are clamoring for a different quarterback. There's obviously the offensive line needs to be rebuilt. And then even though these are young weapons, you still probably need a premier outside wide receiver. I mean, you clearly have Reed and Musgrave that are showing huge growth, and that you could build on it. Dobbs is definitely a red zone threat and a good possession guy. But outside of that, you don't have your guy that you could just be like, okay, he's going to get me 2 yard separation when I need it, and I could just fire the ball to him at will. You don't have that guy on this team yet.
That's where it's been nice, though, that Love has been more like a Favre, and he'll spread the wealth around than Jordan Love fixating and just trying to target Christian Watson from start to finish and having drops and not using his frame to his advantage.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to wonder with Dobbs when you're like, get inside the 20, and then we finally go to him. I'm like, that really seems to be the only time that we're getting targets heading in his direction.
And then Watson, there's been kind of a lot of clamor right now, and I agree with it. Watson plays a lot smaller than he is. I mean, the dude's 6'4", 6'5", and he doesn't come down with contested catches. He's not leaping up, snagging balls that should be snagged, or at least bodying guys to get in position to do it. Seems like he's really passive in the contested catch department. I get it. He's a burner. He's probably actually, at this point of his career, a downgrade from MVS. I mean, there's still room to grow there, but there is cause for concern with that.
Yeah, it's just surprising that we were able to utilize him so well during that 4-game stretch when he caught fire against the Cowboys, and then he had 8 touchdowns in his next 3 games, and we seemed to use him in all the right ways. And now it's you could tell the script part was trying to get him involved, and then after that went completely silent there afterwards, or when we went to him, bad things sort of happened in the game. Anything else on the offensive side of the ball that stood out or highlights?
No, we could flip to defense. I mentioned, I want to throw out because I have the stat up. I mentioned going into the game I could see 40 carries for 225. They ended the game with 36 carries for 205, 5.7 yards per carry.
Ooh.
I was just shy.
Just about dead on. And and what would you say, 100 of those came in the first quarter? There's a couple times you pulled up the stats. You're they're at 5.9 at this point a clip.
They had 100 yards rushing on the nose going into the second half.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty even. So it seemed like though in the third quarter we did a great job, and we got quite a few different times that we got off the field on third down and not allowing gashing runs. But then the fourth quarter, it's hey, this going to take its toll. When you got TJ Slayton out there for 40 snaps a game and Carl Brooks is standing on the sidelines, and then it's just all right, there's another gashing hole to the left or to the right for them closing out the game and then getting the lead back. But yeah, at one point you're it's 5.9, then we got it down to 4.9 per carry. Starting off this game, I'd love to hear what Joe Barry's game plan was coming into it. We had a guy that's on the fritz in Pittsburgh that we made it easy on. I mean, it's Kenny Pickett. He came into this game with 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Load the box on this guy. Have this. You could almost do a copy paste in a way defensive game plan from the Rams to this week. Maybe a little bit more strategic, but it's not much different with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. And Yeah, there was nothing we could do to slow down their run game in the
There,
early
it was
goings of this.
maddening how much light boxes we ran. It was like two down linemen. Like, oh man, we really don't want to get beat in this game. Where I was like, I get it. You have your young, inexperienced defensive backs in there, but make them try to beat you. And when they did try to beat us, for the most part, Valentine and Ballantyne held up. Um, the problem was they kept getting, 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards of rush, and then you would get the very few and far between 1 yard, 2 yard stop. Um, put Wood in, put Brooks in, like mix and match guys, but we just ran nickel the entire time.
Like, I don't even know why they passed the ball at any point there in the first half. They made that pass play to Keyshawn Nixon's side that if he would have drug his foot like Charles
Yeah.
Woodson, he had an interception there. That was a great read by him, basically running the route. But I'm like, geez, it was 2nd and 1. They should have continued to ran the ball there. And if not for the refs calling it close, and they did a good job of calling it both ways, like the Valentine brothers, I thought did a great job on the outside that we're down to our third and fourth cornerback that
Yeah.
George Pickens, he's no slouch out there on the outside at wide receiver. So big kudos to him. And then how about it's not all negative for the defense. I thought Kenny
No.
Clark played an amazing game along with Keyshawn Nixon had quite a few nice open field tackles.
Yeah. LVN showed up here on the tape a little bit. The big play, which you could go either way on, was that kind of forward pass that looked close enough to be backwards, and that it was a clear recovery by the Packers. Um, I was in, you know, I think if they called it the other way, it would probably would stand either way they called it. It was probably going to stand. Um, I'm in favor of just letting the game and the play out, but they ruled it dead, and there wasn't enough evidence to overturn that one. Um, but yeah, I think for the most part, the defense played well in terms of what the play call was and what the personnel on the field was. I had more problems with the personnel than I did of that actual how the players were playing.
The Jimmys and Joes did the best they could with the X's and O's that
Yeah,
were put out there. We'll say I don't know if I give a passing grade to our inside linebackers. Once again, another game that more to be desired than Devondre Campbell getting off of blocks or really making any solo tackles for that
yeah,
matter. McDuffie had, I thought, a few nice run stops, but those two got wiped out by pulling guards and eaten up left and right. Thanks to our safeties, I thought Rudy Ford and Jonathan Owens did a decent job filling in, but shit, any team's gonna get 5 yards a clip if we're putting two defensive linemen in there for almost every single down, and you're not rotating any of the guys out. That
yeah.
is very questionable.
If you're playing two down linemen and then you have your linebackers 4 or 5 yards off the ball, you're gonna get what you saw now.
And the only thing to really nitpick about Joe Barry too is there was a couple sort of third and long situations that he's sending 3 and dropping 8 that gives me PTSD from 4th and 26 back
Yeah,
in 2003. And I will give my one interesting take to Packer fans, at least put it out there. It's out of left field, but I think that part of Brian Gutekunst's trading of Rasul Douglas is to make Joe Barry's job much more difficult and make it even harder to have Matt LaFleur make a case to retain Joe Barry at year's end. I think that was a big part of the decision making, but in hindsight here by the year end, and we're seeing that we're in the middle or the bottom half of the league in a lot of statistical categories with Rasul being traded, makes it that much easier to
yeah,
exit stage left for Joe Barry.
very well could be. I also think that a third round pick for Rasul Douglas is hard to pass up. He said it kind of came out of left field, and they were able to work it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I wanted a real hot take.
I
There.
know,
I
I know.
understand the 3, but I'm like, hey, when you think towards the year's end, because when I went back and looked at the stats at the mid-year point, this defense, we ranked top 10 in passing and red zone defense and scoring defense. I'm like, shoot, you take a look at the numbers. Joe Barry seems to be doing a mighty fine job there for the
Yeah.
Packers. And I'm like making a good case for bringing him back, but I'm like, that's the last thing I want heading into next season.
All right, Jordan. Well, it was an entertaining one. We didn't like the outcome, but we at least enjoyed the product today for the most part.
How about teams, Dave? That was probably, I mean, not only deciding factor, but that was the sort of
Yeah,
one really nice cheers that we can be able to give out, and even like a game ball on teams.
yeah. Nixon played really well. I mean, it was a little bit of everything, right? I mean, Nixon had the two really great returns, and you could give a really big shout out for the return game, punt and kick return. And then you have DeGuara sleeping on the play that lets his guy just blow right past him, and the one of the easiest blocked extra points you'll see in the league. Um, and then you have Carlson on the actual kicking it out of bounds. Like the first kick barely snuck through the pylon, and the second one just goes straight out of bounds. So
We had to Google what the mile an hour of winds there up in Pittsburgh. It said 5 mile an hour. I'm like, the way that ball came off the tee, I'm like, that thing looks like it was about 15, 20 mile an hour here
yeah,
at Lambeau. But yeah, the kicking him. Then do got to give a shot to my new boy Christian Welch there on special teams, number 54, making some great special teams tackles there for the Packers. So do got to give it a tip of the cap to him, and I think he showed up last week too against the Rams, and he's doing his part. And then
yeah.
whoever clobbered the long snapper there on like a punt team too, uh, he deserves some praise as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's pretty much you could go up and down, which I think it makes it enjoyable for us, for fans, for people who go into um, this kind of line of dissecting the game. You had mix and matches of the good and the bad and the head scratchers on pretty much every unit on this Packer team.
Dave, I don't think if anybody were to watch this episode and we didn't mention like what the score was or set it down the ticker, they'd probably think we won. I
Probably.
would say this is a pretty upbeat recap for a Packers loss to move us
This
to 3-6.
this is probably one of the like in terms of a year where you're trying to build and figure out talent wise. I mean, this is a win for us, right? I mean, this is in the Aaron Rodgers days. This would be like the sky is falling, and for this team, it's kind of just like okay, this is a step in the right direction at least.
It's really encouraging. And I think it'll be interesting because what our perception is could be maybe a little bit different. Like it'll be interesting to see what the tone is in the locker room, what Matt
Yeah.
LaFleur has to say, what the other, the beat writers in the Twitter world have to think of this game. But hey, from our vantage point, very encouraging loss by the Packers. And this is kind of what we are hoping for all season long. But hey, this could lead to another, exciting loss in Week 11 with Justin Herbert and probably the most talented or second most talented arm in the league coming to
Yeah.
Lambeau.
Yeah, right now the Lions have them on the ropes, but yeah, we'll see. Leading into next week, how this goes, it could be an absolute barn burner in terms of if the Chargers put the pedal down. I don't know if we keep up, but right now, I coming off of this week, I mean, you get the Rams last week, you get the win, you're full bore ahead, and then this week, a lot of the same stuff that we saw last week. So you just got to keep slowly building on that.
It's encouraging nonetheless. Well, hey, that said, Dave, we put about 4 hours in the books
I was
here
gonna say,
on this Sunday. So
I got to enjoy some family time on my Sunday. My ears are also just burning with these headphones on for 4+ hours at this point.
well, until next time, Packers on the Rocks fans, we'll be back for Week 11 versus the Chargers, and have a good Sunday night. Enjoy yourself.
Yes, sir, man. All right, Jordan, I appreciated hanging out, talking ball, watching ball with you today.
It was a good one. A little bit more of an upgrade than watching it with. I mean, the flatmates are great in their own aspect, but a little bit different when somebody speaks the same language.
There you go, man. All right, man. Till next time.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.